Thank you for being here and watching this video. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I want this channel to be more than just a collection of videos. I want it to be a community where we explore fascinating ideas, discuss them openly, learn from one another, and grow together. So don't stay silent, join the conversation. To master strategic decision-making, one must understand the price-value equation and the psychology of market incentives. Viewing the world through the lens of an economist is often misunderstood as a cold or purely financial endeavor. However, at its core, economics is the study of human behavior under the conditions of scarcity. To think like an economist is to move beyond the surface level of emotional reaction and into the fundamental mechanics of exchange. We are all used to the idea that price is shaped by unit economics. The cost of materials, labor, and logistics. But from a broader, more psychological perspective, price is actually an equation. It is a delicate balance between the value a product or service brings to a person and what that specific person is willing to sacrifice to obtain it. This equation governs every interaction we have, whether we are buying a cup of coffee or choosing a life partner. If the price you pay, whether in money, time, or emotional energy, exceeds the perceived value of what you receive, the result is an immediate state of deficit. The person feels dissatisfied, disappointed, and perceives the transaction as fundamentally unfair. In a business context, this is where churn happens. In a personal context, this is where resentment begins to fester. However, when the value significantly exceeds the price, something remarkable happens. The brand or the person gains a loyal supporter, someone who is willing to invest again and again. If this dynamic is sustained over time, you end up with more than just a customer. You create a brand advocate. This is an individual who will independently promote your cause, defend you on social media, and recommend you to their inner circle without being asked. This happens because human psychology is wired for equilibrium. When people receive more than they expected, they subconsciously try to restore the balance of the universe by giving something back. They pay the debt of that extra value with their attention, their recommendations, and their loyalty. This is the reciprocity heuristic in action, and it is the most powerful engine of growth in any system. Shifting your perspective to look at a situation as an economist would make the variables much clearer. Emotions begin to recede because you are no longer a victim of a feeling. You are an observer of a valuation. Crises feel less overwhelming when you can break them down into costs and benefits. Think about the sunk cost fallacy. This is the economic principle that explains why we stay in bad jobs or failing relationships just because we've already invested years into them. An economist knows that those years are gone. They are a sunk cost. The only rational question is, what is the expected return on the next hour of my life? By calculating the opportunity cost of your time, the value of what you are giving up by continuing on a current path, you stop viewing decisions as isolated emotional events and start seeing them as part of a limited resource pool. You realize that saying yes to a mediocre situation is effectively saying no to a potentially great one. If you are a marketer, for example, you already have the tools. You understand metrics like acquisition cost and lifetime value. Why not apply those to your social life? What is the acquisition cost of a new friendship in terms of your energy? What is the lifetime value of a specific habit? When you break things down into the metrics you already understand, you bring a level of clarity that significantly reduces stress. You stop fighting the waves and start navigating the currents. You begin to see that most behavior in others is simply people responding to the incentives in their own environment. When you understand the incentives, you can predict the behavior. And when you can predict the behavior, it no longer has the power to upset you. This systematic approach allows you to deconstruct complex social interactions into basic transactional units. When you see a friend struggling with a decision, You don't just offer sympathy. You offer a cost-benefit analysis. You help them see the marginal utility of their choices. This doesn't make you robotic, it makes you effective. It allows you to provide a higher level of support because you are helping them navigate the reality of their situation rather than just the emotions of it. By consistently applying this mindset, you begin to see patterns in the world that others miss. You see where markets are inefficient, where people are overpaying for things that bring them no value, and where they are ignoring high-value opportunities because the price of entry in terms of effort seems too high. Master this, and you master the ability to thrive in any environment, regardless of the emotional climate surrounding you. Applying emotional regulation through economics and understanding the consumer surplus in relationships allows for a radical audit of our lives to see where we are operating at a loss. When you look at your professional career through this lens, you stop asking if your boss likes you and start asking if you are providing a consumer surplus. If your salary is your price and your work output is your value, the only way to have true job security and leverage is to ensure that your value consistently and significantly exceeds your price. When you do this, you make it economically irrational for the company to let you go. This same logic applies to self-development. Every hour you spend learning a new skill is an investment in your human capital. An economist doesn't look at a difficult book as hard work. They look at it as a capital expenditure that will yield compounding interest for the rest of their life. Furthermore, the economist's perspective helps us manage the information asymmetry in our lives. Often we are stressed because we feel there's a gap between what we know and what is happening. We feel like people are acting randomly, but an economist knows that no one acts randomly. They act according to their information and their incentives. If a colleague is undermining you, look at the incentive structure of your office. Does the company reward individual competition over team collaboration? If so, your colleague is simply an economic actor responding correctly to a flawed system. This realization removes the emotional sting and allows you to address the system rather than attacking the person. We also have to consider the equilibrium point in our personal relationships. Every relationship settles into a state of balance. If you are the one always giving and always providing the value while the other person only consumes, the price you are paying for that relationship is too high. Eventually, you will hit a point of bankruptcy. Thinking like an economist allows you to see this coming before the crisis hits. It gives you the permission to say, the ROI on this connection is negative, and to reallocate your emotional capital elsewhere. This isn't being heartless, it's being a responsible steward of your own life. You only have a finite amount of attention and time. To waste it on a low-value asset is a disservice to yourself and to the people who would actually provide a surplus in return. The ultimate goal in business is to turn a customer into an advocate. In your personal life, the goal is the same. By consistently providing more value, more kindness, more reliability, more insight than you demand in return, you build a social capital surplus. This surplus acts as a shock absorber during times of crisis. When you make a mistake, people are willing to forgive you because of the massive value debt they feel they owe you. This is the architecture of a resilient social life. By applying these metrics, ROI, opportunity cost, human capital, and incentive alignment to your daily decisions, you gain a level of operational clarity that is otherwise impossible to find in the heat of an emotional moment. You start to see that most crises are simply market corrections. They are the system trying to return to equilibrium because a price was too high or a value was too low. Instead of panicking, you can look at the variables, adjust your investment, and move forward with significantly less stress. Thinking like an economist doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being a slave to those feelings. By integrating the logic of microeconomics with the empathy of social interaction, you create a life that is not just efficient, but deeply balanced. You recognize that every choice has a price, but you ensure that the value you receive is always worth the cost. This is the path to emotional and professional sovereignty. When we talk about the price of a relationship or the value of a career move, We are essentially performing a cost-benefit analysis of our existence. Most people fail to realize that their attention is their most valuable currency. When you spend your attention on social media, outrage, or toxic office politics, you are making an investment with a guaranteed negative return. An economist would tell you that this is a poor allocation of capital. By becoming more selective about where you invest your cognitive resources, you naturally begin to see a higher quality of life yield. This is the essence of strategic living. It is about understanding that while you cannot control the world, you can absolutely control your portfolio of choices. This level of detachment doesn't make life less vibrant. It makes it more intentional. You are no longer drifting. You are calculating, expanding, and thriving in a world that rewards those who understand the rules of the game. Thank you for watching all the way through. I really appreciate you being here. Let me know what you think about the ideas in this video, and feel free to share your own perspective or advice in the comments. I genuinely like to read it. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please like the video and subscribe. My hope is to build not just a channel, but a community where people explore meaningful ideas, exchange thoughts, and grow together. See you in the next videos. Bye.